I can't remember if it was Pinterest, Instagram, or TikTok reel, but I saw it somewhere where like this girl made two ponytails and she separated them and then somehow made it like this. Yeah. But yeah, hello, my name's Elizabeth, but you can call me Liz, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the college rugby anime that you probably haven't heard of. Maybe. So if you want to see that, keep on watching. Murder me. It's been a while since I've done one of these like videos. I'm kind of nervous, but it kind of feels like, you know, when you see an old friend, you kind of just give them a hug. It kind of feels like that. I've done a lot of the monthly vlogs, but this is the first time I'll be doing an anime type of video. I feel like I haven't done them. Like, I have a list of like all the animes that I want to do. I'm gonna continue on my sports anime videos. I have Kavadabi, I think it's called. But in this case, we're going to be talking about Number 24, the college rugby anime you probably haven't heard of, because I think All Out is the rugby anime that most people think. So before I get started, I will explain a little bit about rugby, because I, as an American that lives in Colorado, don't know anything about rugby, so I had to search it up. I have literally notes about rugby because I was like, I don't really understand it. In this case, I'm not gonna really give you like the full rundown of how rugby works. It's mostly just like rugby is the extension of this anime, but it's not the main factor of this. So rugby, like, it is important, but it's not that important as much. So rugby, basically, as an American, I just think of it kind of like a more intense version of American football, which I also don't understand. Like, don't talk to me about sports. Maybe that's why I like sports anime, because I'm like, I can watch this without having to be like, yeah, listen, football season in America is intense. I never understood it. Many people have tried to explain it to me. I don't understand it. But basically, rugby is like American football, but more intense. They have like a same tactics, I guess. So you score a goal through like the little like hoop thingy. You do tackles, you do all of that. I think the only difference is that rugby has rugby union and the rugby league. I think through this anime they follow more like the rugby union, because they have kind of like things like scrums and lineouts, which is basically when they like both teams kind of like go like this. But the only difference is that in rugby, instead of American football, they're not wearing any protective gear, versus American football, it's like everything is protected. So I think they follow more the rugby union, I think, where they do a lot more scrums and stuff like that. Other than that, I don't know much. And the anime doesn't really, like, it kind of just assumes that you already know rugby is. But yeah. So obviously it's Number 24 is the name of the anime. This is the Japanese name. This is 12 episodes, 23 minutes per episode. It aired in January 2020 to April 2020, making it a winter 2020 anime. For the studio, I found two different studios, but PRA Studio was mentioned more, but some did mention Dev Studio 24, so I don't know which studio was. Obviously it's a sports anime, it deals with rugby and like everything that comes in with a sports anime. Now, the characters. So just like any sports anime, there's going to be a lot of characters. Like, they all play their own individual role within the rugby team. But mostly we're just going to be focusing on three, which is like the ones that we follow throughout the whole anime, and like the main characters. Obviously our main character is Number 24, which is Natsuwa Yuzuki, who was voiced by Kengo Kawanishi, who has been Dr. Stone as Gen, as well as Demon Slayer with our precious Munichiro. Basically, he used to play back left wing, and he was really fast and he was really good. He was the rising star of the university league in his first year, so he really loves the rugby. He's been playing since he was like in elementary school. Because of certain circumstances, he has to repeat his first year, so instead of being a second year like his best friend, he's a first year, and he becomes the assistant, and that's why he's Number 24. He's the assistant. He's usually like very nice, but he also likes to play the second and third years. His senpai is like a fiddle, because he's like Oh really? Tell me more. No way you did that. So he likes to like kind of hype them up and like they basically do what he says. Like he's really nice, but he really likes to bully Ibuki the most. Which brings us to Ibuki Ueoka, who is voiced by Junichi Yanagita, who has been in Dr. Stone as Morito, and Oblivion Battery as Takagi. So basically, this dude, he quit playing rugby for a time because of like there's certain circumstances with Natsuwa. He is bullied by Natsuwa like non-stop, and he basically comes back to play rugby because of Natsuwa and a promise that he made. I think it's the third years, they absolutely hate him at first because like he quit without really telling anyone, and he was just like gone and didn't show up to practice or anything. And then he comes back and everyone's just like, whatever. And the third years are like, no, not whatever. And then we have Seichiro Shinjoji. He is voiced by Ryota Suzuki, who has been in Dr. Stone as Ryu Nanami, and the 30 years the version as Kurosawa. So this one is the best friend to Natsuwa and to Ibuki. They'll all three know each other since like elementary school. But he's best friends with Natsuwa. He is like very protective. He kind of starts faltering a little bit in his goals and everything because of Natsuwa, and we'll talk more about that. He is the fullback position. Oh, and Ibuki plays as a standoff or fly half. They're all like, I don't know what any of these terms mean. Obviously, just like any sports anime, there's a lot more characters, but like the anime itself mostly focuses on Natsuwa, our main character, as well, obviously, but like his other two friends, the trio, and like how they deal with like what happened to the circumstances between Natsuwa and how it kind of like affects the whole rugby team. Which brings us to the plot. Okay, so literally the first episode, I was a little shocked because I was like, I usually see animes and there is like more sports anime. It's like no one actually dies or they get seriously injured. Like we all joke about like with Karasuno and Haikyuu how Daiti like died, but he didn't really die. So like in this first episode, actually, it was kind of like a shock because like the first episode, Ibuki and Natsusa, they like Natsusa forgets something and he asks Ibuki, who rides a motorcycle, to give him like a ride back to the university because he's like, oh, I forgot this thing and I really need it for like tomorrow or today or something. And like they both ride this motorcycle, but as they turn, like a car comes and like basically crashes into them, and Natsusa is left with a cervical herniated disc at like the back of his neck, which means that he basically can never play rugby ever again. Like he has serious injuries while Ibuki kind of just like has some minor injuries. So because of that, Natsusa has to basically repeat his first year because he spent like 6 months recovering from this injury and having to accept that he's never going to play rugby again, even though he absolutely loves rugby. And then we see like after the accident, we see him like his first day back to school. It's like the new year. Seichiro kind of comes and like is like protective. Like Seichiro did threaten to quit like rugby because he was like, oh, if Natsuwa can't play, then I don't want to play. But Natsuwa was like, please don't, please keep playing. And basically he like, because Natsusa loves rugby more than anything else, he decides to be assistant. So he's kind of like the one who fills up the water bottles and is a player without being a player. And even though he's like, I think I might look foolish, I still love rugby more than I love myself, and I might look foolish, but I still can be part of like the team that I was before and everything. And at first everyone is shocked because they're like, oh, we thought you would never return, but he's like now the assistant. Seichiro does not take this well because he's like, what if you, like, obviously you have to do a lot of water bottles, you have to bring out the balls and like stuff like that. So he's worried that he's gonna like injure himself or anything like that, but he's like, no, I'll take it easy. He's still not happy with it, but he allows it. Then throughout the whole like rest of the season, we see like, okay, him kind of being adjusted to being the assistant, and like obviously because he's never done this, he's gonna fail at it first. And then he finds out that Ibuki left rugby. Like all of a sudden one day he was just like not there anymore, and he didn't show up to practice, and he just quit without quitting. And so Natsusa goes and finds Ibuki, and he's like, what are you doing? I thought you loved rugby. Like, you have been playing more than us. Like, Ibuki was the one who introduced Natsusa and Seichiro to rugby. So he was very confused. And basically throughout, like, the season, we find out that it's because he feels guilty. He was the one who was driving. He was the one who like didn't sustain like life-threatening like sports, never playing again injuries, where Natsusa did. So he goes and sees him at the club, and he like kind of tries to persuade him every single day to come back to the club. But like I said, Natsusa likes to bully Ibuki, so like he comes, he like knows his like password lock, his everything, and finally Ibuki is like, "Why do you want me to do this? Like I can just say, but I can beg for your forgiveness and blah blah." And they basically make a promise between Ibuki and Natsusa, and Ibuki goes back to play rugby. Obviously, like I said, because he quit without really telling anyone, the third years are not very happy for him coming back, because they're like, you quit, you didn't tell anyone, you could have just abandoned us, and now you're back, and everyone's just like, yay, Ibuki senpai is back. He was a back left wing, so he was really popular, and he was the rising star in the Kansai University League. Yasunari, which is this guy, he is the new position in that same back left wing. He takes over his position of Natsusa, and he's just very angry, I guess, that he has to take his position, but also that Natsusa just can never play rugby again. I mean, they're roommates, because they all live in a dorm once they're in the team. Yasunari just like has absolute beef with Natsusa. We later find out it's because he kind of like feels guilty to taking his position. He tries to copy like what Natsusa's style in rugby was, but like he's just like, that's not his style, like that's not Yasunari's style. So kind of like Natsusa helps him, being like, we need to go back to the basics, and you need to figure out what you were doing kind of like in high school, because that was your style, and now you're trying to copy like everyone, and you're trying to prove yourself that you can do this position that was mine. So they go through that whole thing. The one thing I love about Yasunari is that we have a character named Yu. He also becomes kind of like assistant with Natsusa, because he was playing rugby. He like absolutely sucked, so Natsusa recruited him as an assistant. And the funny thing is that Yasunari and Yu, they become really close friends, and Yasunari kind of like protects Yu in certain situations. Like there was a time where they went to like a game as a whole like school versus another school, and like Yu likes to keep, think Deku for My Hero Academia. He basically keeps statistics of everyone, being like, oh, this was your style, and like videos and everything. And like some of the other people from the other schools kind of were mean and crashed his tablet. And he didn't want to tell anyone, because he was like, oh, I can just buy another tablet, like it's fine. But Yasunari was like, nah, I can protect you. He also took him back to his house, and the Yasunari's family absolutely loved you, and they thought he was a girl and he was his girlfriend, which I thought was hilarious. So like I said, this anime has a lot of BL-like moments. Seichiro and Natsusa, basically, they're married. Like, these two are husbands, have been husbands for like a long time, and blah blah blah. Natsusa and Ibuki, they're boyfriends. These two fight a lot. Like Natsusa teases Ibuki, like he bullies him relentlessly. And throughout this, like we kind of just see the relationship between the three of them. Like I said, they're all childhood friends. Seichiro basically follows whatever Natsusa does. Natsusa met Ibuki and they saw rugby, and Natsusa was like, oh, let's play rugby, and Seichiro was like, sure. Ibuki, he's more of a extrovert as well, and Natsusa's an extrovert, but Ibuki is more laid back, versus Natsusa is the one that gets angry in Ibuki's defense. So it's very BL like, and like the ending just had me like, because halfway through Seichiro, he's usually the one where like he has to shoot the ball through like the hoop, and Seichiro is usually really calm, really like he doesn't get nervous, but then he starts getting nervous and he starts missing the points, and Natsusa is like, you have never in your life, since I've known you since we started playing in that like elementary school, have missed a goal, and now all of a sudden you're missing goals, like what is going on? And basically Seichiro tells him like, I need to be by myself, like I don't need any distractions, like can you please not be near me? Eventually he like talks to the other like seniors and senpais and everything, and he basically figures out like, this is why I'm nervous, because he didn't know why he was nervous either. He just knew that was because Natsusa was watching him. He just wanted to see Natsusa happy, like he just wanted him to see him smile again, because he was like, because of your injury, because of the 6 months you spent recovering, because you basically have to watch us play and you can't play even though you love the like sport. He just wanted him to be happy and smile again. And at the end he makes the goal and he literally like runs up to Natsusa, hugs him, picks him up, and he asks him like, "Are you happy?" And he said yes. And I was like, oh, that's such a BL moment right there. Remember how I told you Iyuki and Natsusa made a promise, and that's why he started coming back to basically the rugby team? Basically, Ibuki promised that he would play in place of Natsusa, and he would basically play until Natsusa was satisfied. At the end of the season, I guess, Natsusa tells him, "Oh, well, we're just barely getting started, like I'm not satisfied yet. You have to keep playing rugby until I'm satisfied. Play in my instead because I can't, and you can, and you're an exceptionally great player." And I'm like, oh, such a BL moment. Like, the way they whisper it, but they're in a church, like, it's raining, he's like, "I'll play rugby until you're satisfied." And it's such a, like, as long as I'm standing here on the court, you'll fly, or stuff like that. So I was like, ah, my heartstrings. And then at the end, we also see that Natsusa himself was basically struggling because he basically abandoned his childhood self and tried to ignore the problem and tried to be like, "Yeah, I'm totally fine, like I'm fine being the manager and everything." And we kind of see this flashback of like baby Natsusa just crying and being like, "Hey, everyone left me, like I have no one." Rugby was his life and now he has nothing. And we see like older Natsusa coming and hugging his like younger version of himself and being like, "It's okay, I'm sorry I abandoned you, I'm sorry." Basically, I ignored my feelings of like everything that was happening. And I thought that was just like it's not like a super sad moment, but it did give me a little misty eye because I'm just like, oh, this poor kid was like crying and everything, and he was like just trying to ignore the problem of him never being able to play rugby because it's basically glossed over all the time in the anime until the very end when we see like baby Natsusa crying because he's like, "Well, all my friends abandoned me." So it's just a very touching moment, I think, because we see at the beginning is like the car accident, and then we just see him being like, "Oh yeah, I'm totally fine, like this is how you can solve your problems, this is how you like make the senpais like twirl around your finger and stuff like that." And then we just assume like, oh, 6 months he's fine, but then at the end we're like, oh, he was not fine throughout this whole entire anime. And there's little hints and like tricks like that each like character, especially Ibuki and Seijudo, kind of like are like. Natsusa is one of those persons that he doesn't want help until he says, "I want help." So they've grown to know this. Seijudo Ibuki has grown to know like, hey, we shouldn't help Natsusa until Natsusa reaches out to us, because otherwise he'll get really angry and he'll be like, "Oh, well, why are you doing this?" So I was like, oh, but it surprised me a little because I was like, oh, it's like you have all these touching moments, and then it's like afterwards you have Seichiro picking up Natsusa, asking him if you're happy, and then him telling Ibuki, "Yeah, I'm not satisfied, you're gonna keep playing rugby until I'm satisfied." So it was a very cute moment. My thoughts. Basically, this anime, like if you go into this anime expecting you're gonna learn more about rugby, kind of like you do with Haikyuu and volleyball, and it's not all out like at all. This anime mostly focuses on Natsusa and how he deals with his recovery, but also deals with having to never play again the sport that he absolutely loved. Like, this man breathed rugby, and because of this one accident, he can never play it again. So he has to find other ways to be able to satisfy that craving to play rugby, which is why Ibuki makes that promise to Natsusa, being like, "I'll play rugby and you're sit until you're satisfied." And he might never be satisfied, and he was okay with that. Giving each member the help they need to be able to improve in rugby, because he wants to see their team go to finals, go to nationals, go to wherever, because in that way he'll feel in a way satisfied that he can't physically play rugby, but he can say that at least he is part of this team that like won nationals. So like if you're expecting like, oh yeah, rugby, like, oh, it's not really that. It's more like rugby is an extension of this anime instead of being the main focal point. I think, like I said, it's very BL. Like, I think all sports anime have like a little BL moment. You know how back in the day where like the number of exclamation marks said the amount of BL that was happening in this anime? So think of Free. Beauty and Ice, Haikyuu, they all have exclamation points. There's moments like this where Natsusa literally, like, I don't know if Ibuki is like lifting weights or something, but he's on his back lifting weights and Natsusa literally sits on him. So I was like, oh, that's where that scene came from, because I've seen that scene before and I wasn't sure where it was, but it's from this anime. So yeah, Yasunari and Yasunari's family, and like thinking Yu is his girlfriend, and them just being really close, and Yasunari being really protective of Yu. It's very like BL, like I don't know how else to describe it. I really did like this anime. I like sports animes just because a lot of the times it doesn't just focus on the sport itself, but like on the relationship and what it's like to be in sports with a lot of other members and stuff like that. I think I would definitely recommend it, although I feel like you should warn people about the BL moments, because even though they're once or twice, it's very much not the focal point, but like a little tiny point in the anime. Yeah, definitely watch Number 24. I would like to hear your thoughts or know what you think, or if you actually believe it has those BL moments, or am I just crazy? Listen, I've seen a lot of BL, I've read a lot of BL, so it just says like, that's exactly what these people said, or these people said, like, that's some like fan fiction right there. What do you think of Number 24? Did you watch it? Have you ever watched it? Have you ever heard of it? What do you think about it? You can follow me at E_Gomez Liz on all my socials, and yeah, bye. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face, tell me that you love me, even if it's